Hello everyone, this is Silver Contrails on YouTube, and today I'm doing something a little bit different, something I want to start doing on a weekly basis, a little experiment of mine. As some of you may have known, some of my subscribers anyways might know, I do write for tcgplayer.com. If you're coming here from the link I'm providing on my article, of course you know that. You might not know that I have a little Minecraft channel on the side. It's nothing too impressive, but I thought I'd use it for something that I've been trying to do for a while, which is integrate what I'm doing on TCG Player with what I'm doing on YouTube and bring all that stuff together. So I've had this idea kind of in my mind for a while, and I just haven't gone out to do it yet, but I'm going to try it this week, see what happens. So basically what this is every week after my article, before my current one goes up, I'm going to record a session of me talking about sort of some of the things that may have come up maybe in the comments or something I heard about as relating to whatever topic I talked about during that article, so that I can go back and clarify some things, maybe talk about something else in relation to that. Just something to, it's sort of like a follow-up, a weekly follow-up. I'm not even sure what I'm going to call this yet. I'm just kind of going with it right now. So maybe some kind of weekly follow-up. The weekly follow-up. Yeah, there we go. I don't know. What we're going to talk about, of course, would be this time my Dragon Ruler article that went up last week, and that would be on the 18th. So, got a lot of comments on that. Obviously, Dragon Rulers was something that I've been putting off for a little bit. I've kind of danced around it because I wanted to make sure before I wrote it that I was going to hit the important topics. And of course, it's a deck that hasn't seen a YCS yet, as quite a few decks haven't seen a YCS yet. So I'm going off of regional deck lists, and regional deck lists versus YCS deck lists, there's a big difference there in what sort of metagame insight you can get out of that. It's not always cut and dry. You know, X number of decks topped X number of regionals. It's the same. Looking at that is the same as YCS. There's definitely different levels of competition. There's different decks going in there, and different players, of course. You know, if you go into a YCS, you get into the top rounds, you're starting to play against some very, very skilled opponents. At a regional, you get that as well, but to a lesser extent. You don't see that maybe until the last two rounds. If you kind of floated under, got some early losses, and then got up to the top at the very end of the very end of the tournament. So it's just a different way to look at it, and of course, local metagames is a big thing too. You don't have as many people traveling across the country to go to a regional, so a lot of the decks you're seeing are local decks. So the decks that you see at local tournaments around the area, the city, that state, those are the decks that you're seeing play, not decks from California, not decks from Florida. It's not a nationwide metagame. It's a very, very small metagame. And in fact, you can sort of glean a lot of insight just by going to local stores, which is actually, I think, something I talked about in the article a few months back. So, yeah, looking at those, of course, is kind of weird. It's a little bit different. I really wish there was another YCS directly after the release of Tachyon Galaxy. That would be nice. It would give us a little bit more insight, something else to work with. But, regional deck lists, there's some fairly evident trends going with dragons right now. It's pretty crazy. Even just looking at the price point of these cards, of course, makes a lot of sense. You see Blaster going for about $7 to $8 online, I think. I'm looking at just the TCG player prices. Dragon Sack, or as I like to call it, Dragon Snacks, has gone down to about 120, 125. I had a friend recently sell theirs for like $60, 60 or $70. I don't remember what. It's definitely losing a lot of its value. Whether or not players are just losing interest in the deck, I don't know. It is being very heavily sided against. That's a huge thing right now. It is ridiculous how many side deck cards are going in against this one matchup, and it makes sense. Dragon Rulers have the best game one out of anyone right now. They have the best, first game in the game. Their matchups are surprisingly solid, mostly because they're such a good deck. It's something that I've heard a couple of YouTubers talk about already. It's a very lateral deck strategy. It doesn't do what you'd expect, where you have these cards, you search from your deck, you play them on the field, they go to your graveyard, that's it. And they either stay in the graveyard, or maybe you have a card that uses them from the graveyard as well. With dragons, these things go from your deck to your hand to your graveyard, back to the field. They get banished, they come back, they go in every card zone, it feels like. And they keep moving around, coming back for more. You try to get rid of them, they come back, they've got answers, they've got outs, they have all these different plays and all these different functions. And it lets them not only become really consistent, but also play in a way that's so much different than what we'd expect. I think the first deck that really stuck out to me that was very much like Dragon Rulers was probably Mermails, but even Mermails didn't really have that whole special summon from the graveyard mechanic to the extent that Dragons do, and really nobody else does. Combined with the big dragons and the baby dragons, you have such an interesting bunch of cards, and it's really cool to look at them because they're a really cool archetype. They've done a lot of good to improve a lot of decks. That's awesome, and I love that. I'm playing Tempest and Dragunity, I'm playing Blaster and Hazy, and it's a ton of fun. It's really cool to have those cards. At the same time, they are very, very, very powerful, and certainly in the same deck, they are incredibly consistent, incredibly good at what they do, which is winning the game. Dismantling opposing setups, creating setups, generating so much card advantage that they're several steps above what other decks are capable of. And in fact, that was a big point I tried to make in my article. If you're trying to go toe-to-toe with dragons, playing the grind game against them, unless you are playing Prophecy or another version of Dragon, so you're in a mirror, you're going to have a tough time. Because this deck just does not care. It gets back cards, it discards, it banishes, it adds, it searches, and then it rejuvenations and it gets it all back. And you are already out of the duel. You're already losing. Once they go rejuve and they add 4, presumably they could add more. But even if they activated 2 babies to go into Dracosac or whatever, and then they rejuve, add 4, that's just crazy to do things like that. And then, of course, they're popping your field, doing whatever. Now they've got their graveyard loaded. They can banish, summon. You summon their 2 dragons, swing for a bunch of damage. It's just nuts. The deck just doesn't care. It doesn't, like, there was an article I remember reading a while back where the writer said something about how cards like Bottomless Trap Hole, Dimensional Prison, we're not going to see those cards a whole lot anymore because they don't work very well against dragons. Instead, what you want to have are cards that actively shut down a wide variety of plays. They don't one-for-one exchange with the opponent. They shut down their plays completely and prevent them from doing things. Imperial Iron Wall does that. Mind Drain does that. Macrocosmos does that. To a certain extent, Goes and Match does that. And Vanity's Emptiness does that. Ophion is probably the best example. It does that. It stops them from playing their big monsters. Even stuff like Pleiades, Constellar, and I hope I'm saying that right. I think it's Constellar Pleiades. The rank 5 Constellar. That card obviously punishes them for going to Xyz summons. Not that they're very likely to do so when you have that monster out, but there you go. Jeff Jones wrote an article recently about Constellars that really stuck out to me, especially backing it with Vanity's Emptiness. Vanity's Emptiness plus Dracosac or plus Pleiades is really the new Stardust Oppression, something Jason Meyer has talked about as well. How potent that card has become, and I wrote an article about it, and another writer wrote about it as well. So there's a lot of discussion to have about that. it's pretty evident going in that we're going to have a lot more issues with dragons in terms of what happens in September, but that's probably looking forward too much. We don't really know what's going to happen there. We do have Nats, of course, coming up. So, back to the article. What did I miss? There's a couple of cards I wanted to hit. Did I mention? I'm going to Control F. I have my article up. Kaiko. I did not mention Kaiko, the Ghost Destroyer. I'm not sure why. I think that, along with a couple other cards I had written down, I was like, okay, I'm gonna make sure I give these guys a paragraph, and then I either ran out of space or I just decided not to do it. Whatever it happened to be. Kaiko's good. Obviously, spellbooks are gonna play him along with Jowkin. He's a really solid card. You can swing, you can banish their baby dragons so they lose fodder, and not trigger the big dragons, obviously, and then have it on the field. Their outs to it basically become summon, like, they have to, I believe they can banish from their hand. So they have to lose more cards to do it. They have to play around it a lot harder. It's probably a better card than Ryo, and I almost hate to say that, because Ryo's pretty freaking good against everything else. But Kaiko's solid. Obviously, in Prophecy, you're going to play it. He's dark, so, 1800. I think it's worth playing. It's hard. It's a fairly difficult card to play. Playing at the right moment really matters. I'd almost look into something like Banisher of Radiance as well, if you're capable of playing that. Summon Banisher. Now what do? They don't have the Typhoon as an out. They have Breakthrough Skill, which, if you like summon it and then you Typhoon, then they have to break through, or something along those lines. So they have essentially one out to that. Whatever you have to do to basically shut off their ability to summon the dragons, if you have some kind of monster that you're going to put on the board, unless that monster stays around forever, you probably are going to want something that keeps them from summoning their monsters. Kaiko does that, and so does Banisher of Radiance. So Banisher of the Radiance, if I remember correctly. Those cards both do that, so it's pretty nice. Someone mentioned Bubble Crash. Heavy Slump, obviously, being an alternative if you want to go that direction. It helps when they max C you as well. Bubble Crash is a little bit easier to trigger, but it's not as big of a setback for them, because you can definitely go, just go off on them like crazy with a bunch of max Cs and stuff, and then if they Valor you and they stall you out, flip Heavy Slump, they draw to 2 cards, and then they draw 1 more on their turn, whatever. It's not a big deal anymore. And then you potentially should have burned some of their cards. I don't really like it. There's some people talking about using Colossal Fighter. There's actually a lot of Dragon decks running Armory Arm. So they make Colossal... They do the whole Colossal Armory trick, I want to say. Or no. They run the Armory Arm, and then equip it to their opponent's monster, and then just run their dragons into that monster. And they take all the damage as burn, which is crazy that they're capable of doing that without Armory, or without Colossal Fighter, because if I remember correctly, that combo is broken. So, of course, you can do it with Colossal Fighter when they max C, keep swinging into a blaster, and ideally, they'll keep drawing cards until they lose. They're in the battle phase. Unless they have that set breakthrough skill, they're going to lose. So, that's pretty cool. And another card someone talked about. What was it? I believe it was Electric Virus. Electric Virus is good. Alternatively, Mind Control is also good. So Electric Virus is cool. Definitely a good side deck because it's got a lot of utility. It can take Ophion. That's a big thing. Mind Control is also cool. Not against Evil Swarm, clearly. You wouldn't want to do that. But you can take, just like Electric Virus, you can take any of the dragons. You can take Dragon Snacks. Or you can take their Big Eye if you have Mind Control. Something that Electric Virus can't do. And to me, that's actually a valid reason to run it over that. So maybe, cited in conjunction with Electric Viruses, it's pretty easy to just grab their big eye, take their Dracosack, do whatever you want from there, which is pretty cool. Otherwise, Electric Virus, works pretty much fine. Definitely something that I forgot to talk about. Uh, it's just a really nice card. And let's see, anyone else? A couple of people did talk about Drone Lockbird. I barely mentioned it when in my article I said I just don't like the card. I think it's a bad card. The fact that we're forced to run it speaks volumes about this format. And let's see. There are a couple of people that did comment and kind of dismissive comments about pessimistic comments, I should say, about the format. I don't think it's, quitting time yet, even though the dragons are very, very good. Now, I did have one person ask about or comment about Macrocosmos versus Imperial Iron Wall. He said something along the lines of, if you think Macro is more effective than Wall, I question your wisdom as a player. This is something that I actually read recently, or actually didn't read. I watched a video on it during the same night that I was actually writing the article. So, the thing with Macro is that it can't be destroyed by Blaster. That should be a fairly obvious thing when you look at Macrocosmos versus Imperial Iron Wall. Macrocosmos cannot be destroyed by Blaster because Blaster does require them to send to the graveyard. So, if you have Imperial Iron Wall, that's fine. You just have to realize that they will have Game 1 outs to it. So I think a main-decked Macrocosmos is better than a main-decked Imperial Iron Wall, simply because their only real out to it is Heavy Storm, whatever Typhoons they're maining, if they're maining any, which a lot of them aren't, and Dracosack. Now, they can make Dracosack definitely under Macrocosmos. They can do it under Imperial Iron Wall, too. In fact, they can do it better. But it's going to take them a lot of cards to do that. They have to discard 2 of the baby dragons, or banish a bunch of stuff from their hand. Actually, no, that's not true. They can't discard the baby dragons because they have to banish. They have to send to the graveyard, I believe, for those as well. So, they're in a really bad spot. That's one of the reasons why I think Macrocosmos is just the better card. It basically says, okay, can you make Dracosack? How many cards is it going to take you? Even if you do, then what? So, Game 2, obviously, they both have the same flaws. MSTs come in, Royal Decrees come in, all that stuff. So you run into the same problems there. I just really like Macrocosmos. It's a more difficult card to play, this format, but I think it definitely, if you can play it, I would definitely play it over Wall. It's just a really good card. It works really well versus Prophecy. It works really well versus a lot of rogue decks. It's still a card that I go back to and say, hey, if I can build a deck around this card, I'll do it. Because it gives me that big advantage as soon as I flip it. But otherwise, yeah, those are sort of some thoughts that I had on my last article. Wanted to address some of the comments in a video form as well, although I think I replied to just about everyone in text form. Something I'm trying to get back into, replying more to comments, which even Doug called me out on. He was saying that I don't reply to very many of them, but I will try to in the future. Let me know what you thought of this video, any suggestions, improvements, things you'd like to see in the future. If you're a regular subscriber, of course, I will be doing more Minecraft things in the future. This is going to be just a once-a-week video. And I think I'll just throw up a black screen on this. I'm not sure exactly how I'll do it in the future. I don't think I'll do like a face cam discussion. I don't really look at my looking at my camera when I'm talking. So there's that. But otherwise, yes, that's about it. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I hope you guys enjoyed this week's article as well, or did enjoy, because I'll be putting the link at the bottom of the article. It'd be cool. And as we gear up for Nats, which I will be going to, I'll be there. I'll mention it probably in the next video as well. And of course, let me know if you guys want to see more of these. Neat little experiment, something I thought I'd try. I think it'll work pretty well. About 20 minutes. So, yep, until next time then.